hidden among the stars. Admiral Vortak squinted at the flickering holographic display, his four eyes blinking in rapid succession. The scout vessel had transmitted its final message just before going silent. 3 more reconnaissance ships lost in the same sector within 1 lunar cycle. This was becoming an expensive mystery. "Play the message again," he ordered, mandibles clicking with irritation. His communications officer, Lintrix, nodded her bulbous head. "Yes, Admiral." Running final transmission from scout vessel Horizon Seeker. The hologram crackled to life, showing the panicked face of Captain Quisner. His purple skin flushed almost white with fear. "This is Captain Quisner of the Horizon Seeker. We've detected something. Something impossible. An ancient signal. Technology unlike anything in our database. We're picking up thousands, no, millions of transmissions. There's an entire civilization here, hidden somehow from our scanners until we were practically on top of them. They call themselves, wait, incoming vessels. They're surrounding us. Their technology is, by the void. They're opening fire." Admiral Vortak drummed his manufactured fingers against the polished surface of his command console. The Galactic Confederation had been expanding into this unremarkable spiral arm for decades, cataloging uninhabited worlds rich with resources. Their scientists had confirmed there were no advanced civilizations in this region. Yet now, suddenly, ships were disappearing. "Analysis," he demanded, turning to his science officer. Science Officer Zeptra, a lanky being with translucent skin revealing a complex network of pulsing organs, stepped forward nervously. "Admiral, I've reviewed the sensor data transmitted before communication loss. It's perplexing. The readings suggest technology more advanced than our own, yet utilizing principles we abandoned centuries ago as inefficient." "That makes no sense," Vortak snapped. "More advanced but using outdated methods." "I cannot explain it, sir. It's as if someone took our ancient technological paths and continued developing them far beyond what we thought possible before we switched directions in our research." Vortak stood up from his command chair, his imposing 7-foot frame casting a shadow across the bridge. "The High Council demands answers. We cannot continue losing valuable ships and crews. Prepare the battle cruiser. We will investigate personally." "Sir," exclaimed Lintrix, her voice quavering. "That would violate protocol. First contact situations require diplomatic vessels, not warships." The Admiral's mouth twisted into what passed for a smile among his species. "This is no longer a first contact situation, Lieutenant. This is a military investigation. Whatever is destroying our ships will face the full might of the Galactic Confederation." 3 days later, the massive battlecruiser, Inevitable Dominance, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system where the scout ships had disappeared. Its sleek curved hull gleamed under the light of an unremarkable yellow star. "Passive scans only," ordered Vortak. "I want to see what we're dealing with before announcing our presence." The bridge crew worked in tense silence, their various appendages dancing across control panels. "Sir," called out sensor technician Pranks. His eye stalks extended to their full length in shock. "You need to see this." The main view screen filled with imagery of the third planet from the star. A beautiful blue-green world. But that wasn't what had shocked the crew. It was the sheer amount of artificial structures, orbital platforms, satellites, space stations, and what appeared to be defensive installations surrounded the planet in complex patterns. "Impossible," whispered Vortak. "Our long-range surveys indicated no technological civilization in this system. How could we miss this?" Science Officer Zeptra was frantically analyzing data. "Admiral, these structures. Some appear to be thousands of years old, yet others are clearly recent constructions. And the technology, it's bizarre. Some utilizes principles similar to ours. Others are completely alien in design, and some seem to be beyond our current understanding." "Thousands of years," repeated Vortak incredulously. "That's not possible. The Confederation has been surveying this quadrant for centuries. Nothing could hide from our sensors for that long." "Sir," interrupted Communications Officer Lintrix. "We're being hailed. Audio and visual." Vortak straightened his ceremonial armor. First impressions mattered, even with species that destroyed Confederation vessels. On screen, the view screen shifted to show a being with pinkish-tint skin, sparse facial hair, and only 2 eyes. It wore what appeared to be a military uniform in dark blue with silver accents. This is Admiral Jackson of the United Earth Defense Force. You have entered restricted space. Identify yourselves and state your purpose immediately, or we will take action. Vortak stepped forward. I am Admiral Vortak of the Galactic Confederation battlecruiser, Inevitable Dominance. We are investigating the disappearance of 3 of our scout vessels in this sector. The human's expression didn't change. Your scout vessels violated our territory despite clear warning buoys marking the boundary of Earth-controlled space. They were intercepted and attempted hostile maneuvers. We responded accordingly. Warning buoys? Vortak snarled. We detected no such warnings, and the Confederation has charted this entire quadrant. No civilization has claimed this system. For the first time, the human's face showed emotion, something resembling amusement. I see the problem. You're new to this part of the galaxy, aren't you? Your Confederation has only been exploring this spiral arm for what? Maybe a century or 2. That explains why you don't recognize our cloaking technology. Vortak felt a chill run down his spine ridges. Explain yourself. Admiral Jackson's smile widened. Humanity has been watching your expansion for generations. We're quite familiar with the Galactic Confederation. We've observed your council meetings, studied your technology, learned your languages, but we decided long ago to remain unnoticed until we determined whether you represented a threat. Impossible, roared Vortak. The Confederation represents over 300 spacefaring species across 12,000 star systems. We are the most advanced civilization in the known galaxy. No single species could possess technology advanced enough to hide an entire planetary system from our sensors. Well, said Jackson with a casual shrug that infuriated Vortak, I hate to break it to you, but we're not exactly newcomers to the galactic stage. Humanity has been spacefaring for nearly 10,000 years. Silence fell over the bridge of the Inevitable Dominance. 10,000 years? Stammered Science Officer Zeptra. But that would make humans older than. The Confederation itself? Finished Jackson. Yes. By about 7,000 years, actually. We watched your founding species take their first tentative steps into space. Quite inspiring, really. Vortak felt the deck shifting beneath his feet, though the artificial gravity remained stable. Everything he knew about galactic history, about his civilization's place in the cosmos, was being challenged. If what you say is true, he finally managed, why hide? Why not make yourselves known? Jackson's expression turned serious. We tried that approach with early spacefaring civilizations. It rarely ended well. Young species tend to either worship advanced civilizations as gods or become crippled by technological inferiority. Neither outcome promotes healthy development. So we established the quarantine protocol. We watch, we wait, we evaluate. And what is your evaluation of the Confederation? Asked Vortak, dreading the answer. Not bad, replied Jackson. Your environmental policies are commendable. Your treatment of non-spacefaring species needs work. Your political structure is interesting, if somewhat inefficient. Vortak bristled at the casual assessment. You speak as if you have authority to judge us. Not judge, Admiral. Observe. Though I must say, sending a battle cruiser in response to lost scout ships doesn't reflect well on your intentions. Our intentions? Vortak's voice rose dangerously. Your people destroyed 3 of our vessels. Admiral Jackson's expression hardened. After they ignored warnings and attempted to scan restricted military installations, the captains were given multiple opportunities to withdraw. They chose aggression instead. Before Vortak could respond, Science Officer Zeptra interrupted with undisguised panic in her voice. Admiral, I'm detecting energy buildups throughout the system. Weapons platforms are activating. Vortak turned back to the view screen. Is this how advanced species behave, Admiral Jackson? With threats of violence? Jackson sighed. Not threats. Precautions. You arrived in a warship with weapons charged. We responded in kind. But perhaps we can de-escalate. Power down your weapon systems, and we'll do the same. Vortak hesitated. Everything in his training demanded he maintain battle readiness. But something in the human's calm confidence suggested this was not a fight the Confederation could win. Stand down weapons, he ordered. Power to defensive systems only. Wise decision, said Jackson with a nod. Now, I propose we continue this conversation in a more comfortable setting. Would you and your senior officers care to join me aboard our diplomatic station? There's much history to discuss, and I think you'll find it illuminating. The diplomatic station Peaceful Discourse hung in orbit between Earth and its moon, a gleaming structure of impossibly delicate-looking spires and crystalline domes. Vortak and his 3 senior officers had transferred via shuttle, escorted by sleek human vessels that moved with disturbing precision and speed. As they were led through corridors filled with artifacts and representations of various species, Vortak struggled to process what he was seeing. Many of the species depicted in artwork and holograms were unfamiliar, though some bore resemblance to members of the Confederation. Ancestors, explained Admiral Jackson, who had personally greeted them at the docking bay, or perhaps more accurately, your evolutionary cousins. They entered a vast circular chamber where the floor was a transparent material revealing the blue-green earth below. Around the edges of the room stood representatives of what appeared to be dozens of different species, all watching the Confederation officers with expressions ranging from curiosity to amusement. Welcome to the Council of Elders, said Jackson. Representatives from the oldest human colonies and our closest allies. A tall, willowy being with pale blue skin stepped forward. Despite clearly not being human, she spoke with the same relaxed authority as Jackson. I am High Counselor Eleonora from Proxima Colony, she said. Though my ancestors left Earth 8,000 years ago, and evolution has changed us somewhat, we remain part of the human family. Vortak stared. You're human. She smiled. Transhuman would be the technical term, adapted for our new home world over thousands of generations with some genetic assistance. But yes, my distant ancestors walked the plains of Earth. Another figure approached, this one seemingly mechanical, though with movements so fluid they appeared organic. Synthetic Intelligence Collective Representative Prometheus, it introduced itself. Created by humanity 6,000 years ago. Granted independence and full rights 5,000 years ago. We have been partners ever since. Vortak's head was spinning. This is overwhelming. If humans have been spacefaring for 10 millennia, if you have colonies and allies throughout the galaxy, how have we never encountered you before? Admiral Jackson gestured toward a large table at the center of the room. Please sit. It's a long story, and one that begins with a simple truth. Humanity was alone. As they took their seats, a holographic display activated above the table, showing the Milky Way galaxy. When humans first developed faster-than-light travel, we were certain we would find other intelligent life, Jackson continued. We spent centuries exploring, expanding, hoping to find others, but we found only ruins, remnants of civilizations long extinct, and countless worlds with potential but no sentient life. The hologram zoomed in on various star systems, showing archaeological sites, abandoned cities, dead worlds. The Great Filter, some called it, said High Counselor Eleonora. Something that prevents most life from achieving interstellar civilization. Disease, war, environmental collapse, cosmic disasters, countless potential explanations. But humanity survived, added Prometheus. And in our solitude, we spread outward, establishing colonies, adapting to new worlds, creating new branches of the human tree. Vortak struggled to find words. But the Confederation. Yes, said Jackson with a smile. About 3,000 years ago, we began detecting radio signals from several worlds in what you now call Confederation space. First contact, at long last. But by then, humanity had developed a complex philosophical debate about how to approach younger civilizations. And, Science Officer Zeptra leaned forward, you chose to hide? We chose to observe, corrected Eleonora. To let these young species develop naturally without the overwhelming influence of a vastly more advanced civilization. We watched as you discovered each other, formed alliances, eventually creating the Confederation. But we've explored so much of the galaxy, protested communications officer Lentrix. How could we miss an entire civilization spanning thousands of worlds? Prometheus's mechanical features shifted into something approximating a smile. The same way a child might miss an adult observer standing perfectly still. Our technology allows us to hide in plain sight. Your sensors see what we want them to see. Until now, said Vortak. Why reveal yourselves to us now? Admiral Jackson's expression grew serious. Because you're expanding more rapidly than anticipated. Because 3 of your captains chose to ignore our warning buoys, venturing too close to sensitive installations. And because, frankly, we've been debating ending the quarantine protocol. The Confederation has matured significantly in recent centuries. This is, Vortak's search for the right word, humiliating. To learn we've been watched, studied like primitive creatures. Not primitive, said Jackson firmly. Young. There's a difference, and there's no shame in youth. What happens now? Asked Vortak, suddenly aware of how vulnerable his mighty battle cruiser was against the hidden power of humanity. Jackson exchanged glances with the other representatives before answering. That depends partly on you, Admiral. You'll return to the Confederation as the bearer of history-changing news. How you present this information will significantly impact what follows. Vortak straightened his posture. I will report what I have seen truthfully, but the High Council will demand verification, proof of your claims. Naturally, agreed Jackson. Which is why we're prepared to send a diplomatic delegation to your capital world. A formal introduction, long overdue. As the implications settled over Vortak, a thought occurred to him. The ruins we've found throughout Confederation space, were they? Some were our outposts, abandoned as we developed better technology, confirmed Eleonora. Others belonged to species that achieved space flight before destroying themselves. Cautionary tales that helped shape our prime directive of non-interference. The galaxy is dangerous, added Prometheus. More dangerous than the Confederation realizes. Another reason we've chosen this moment to make contact. Jackson nodded grimly. There are threats stirring in the dark between galaxies, Admiral. Threats humanity has been monitoring for millennia. The time for the younger races to stand apart from the older is coming to an end. Vortak felt a chill of premonition. What threats? That, said Jackson, is a conversation for another day. First, we must establish trust, a foundation for the relationship between humanity and the Confederation. And if the Confederation rejects this relationship? Asked Vortak. The room grew noticeably cooler. We sincerely hope that doesn't happen, said Jackson. For everyone's sake. The return journey to Confederation space was the longest of Admiral Vortak's career. The inevitable dominance traveled in silence, its crew still processing the revelation that had shattered their understanding of galactic history. Accompanying them was a sleek obsidian vessel of human design, carrying the diplomatic delegation that would forever change the Confederation. Vortak stood alone in his quarters, gazing at a small data crystal given to him by Admiral Jackson. It contained a brief, sanitized history of human civilization, a primer, they called it, meant to prepare the Confederation leadership for what was to come. Computer, resume playback, he ordered. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a series of images. Primitive humans fashioning stone tools, building wooden ships, constructing metal machines that took flight, and finally reaching their moon with what now seemed like absurdly primitive technology. Historical records indicate humanity nearly destroyed itself 3 times before achieving stable interstellar travel, narrated a pleasant voice. The nuclear crisis of 2061, the biotech pandemic of 2119, and the artificial intelligence rebellion of 2207 each brought our species to the brink of extinction. These near-death experiences profoundly shaped human philosophy, particularly regarding technological development and expansion. The display shifted to show early human colony ships, bulky and inelegant compared to their modern vessels. First contact with non-Terran intelligence occurred in 2389, when explorers discovered the silicon-based life forms of Epsilon Eridani. Though not spacefaring and possessing only primitive technology, these beings demonstrated complex social structures and rudimentary mathematics. This encounter established the foundation for what would become the Quarantine Protocol. A chime at his door interrupted the playback. "Enter," called Vortak. Science Officer Zeptra stepped into the room. Her translucent skin flushed with a blue tint that indicated anxiety. "Admiral, forgive the intrusion, but I've been analyzing the technical specifications the humans provided." She held up a data pad. "If these figures are accurate, their technological advantage is substantial." Vortak gestured for her to continue. "Their energy production methods alone are centuries beyond ours. They appear to have mastered zero-point energy extraction, quantum vacuum manipulation, and something they call dimensional folding that I cannot even begin to understand." "Your assessment?" asked Vortak. Zeptra's inner organs pulsed rapidly. If they wished to conquer the Confederation, they could do so with minimal effort. Their decision to remain hidden was entirely their choice, not a necessity. Vortak clicked his mandibles thoughtfully, yet they chose observation over conquest. What? Perhaps Admiral Jackson was truthful about their philosophical debates. Or perhaps... Zeptra hesitated. "Speak freely, officer. Perhaps they are using us as a buffer against whatever threat they mentioned. A first line of defense." Vortak nodded slowly. "A possibility we must consider. Has there been any communication from the human vessel?" "Only routine navigational exchanges. They've maintained diplomatic silence otherwise." "And how is the crew handling this information?" Zeptra's skin rippled with concern. "There's significant unease, Admiral. Many are questioning everything they thought they knew about our place in the galaxy. Others are expressing curiosity, even excitement about the possibilities of human technology." "And you, officer? What do you feel?" She considered the question carefully. "Smaller, sir, but also intrigued. Think of what we might learn." Vortak turned back to the paused holographic display. "Indeed. Inform me when we're 6 hours from the Confederation border. I need to prepare my report for the High Council." "Yes, Admiral." Zeptra hesitated at the door. "Sir, do you believe the humans are telling the truth about this external threat?" "I believe," said Vortak carefully, "that we're about to enter a new era in Confederation history. Whether that's good or bad remains to be seen." High Counselor the Bar of the Euthorian Collective was not accustomed to feeling inadequate. As the senior member of the Confederation High Council, he had overseen diplomatic relations with dozens of species, negotiated complex trade agreements, and even authorized military action when necessary. But facing the human delegation, he felt like a freshly hatched blarling. "Let me ensure I understand correctly," he said, his three-fingered hands steepled before him. "Humanity has been observing the Confederation since its founding, possesses technology far beyond our own, controls thousands of star systems we've never detected, and now wishes to establish formal diplomatic relations because of some unspecified external threat." Admiral Jackson, who had joined the delegation at the last minute, nodded calmly. "That summarizes our position, yes." The council chamber fell silent. 23 representatives from the Confederation's most powerful species sat around the circular table, each processing the implications in their own way. Delegate Murin of the Pesquet Federation, a furred being with a reputation for directness, spoke first. "This is outrageous. If what you claim is true, you've been spying on sovereign civilizations for millennia. The violation of privacy alone." "Regrettable but necessary," interrupted a new voice. A human female with dark skin and silver hair stepped forward from the delegation. Ambassador Olivia Kawachi, representing the Terran Alliance. "Counselors, I understand your concerns. From your perspective, our actions may seem intrusive, but consider the alternative." She activated a holographic projector, displaying a galaxy map that showed hundreds of extinct civilizations marked in red. Each of these species achieved interstellar travel. Each expanded rapidly, established colonies, developed advanced technology, and each destroyed themselves or were destroyed by others within 500 years of reaching the stars. This pattern repeated thousands of times across millions of years. The bar leaned forward. And humanity somehow avoided this fate. Not without cost, replied Kawachi. As Admiral Jackson mentioned to your representative, humanity nearly destroyed itself 3 times. These experiences taught us caution. When we finally reached the stars and found only ruins, we developed the quarantine protocol. To watch, like children, said Murin bitterly. To observe, not interfere, corrected Kawachi. To learn what factors allow a species to survive the transition to a multiplanetary civilization and what factors lead to extinction. And your conclusion? Asked the bar. Admiral Jackson stepped forward again. That cooperation is essential. Isolated species inevitably turn inward, their conflicts festering until they destroy themselves. The Confederation represents the most successful multi-species alliance this galaxy has seen in eons. That's why we've chosen this moment to reveal ourselves. Another counselor, a gaseous entity contained within an environmental suit, pulsed with colors indicating skepticism. You mentioned an external threat, yet you provide no details. Convenient. And for the first time, Jackson looked uncomfortable. The nature of the threat is complicated. Perhaps a demonstration would be more efficient than explanation. He glanced at a tall, angular being standing at the back of the human delegation. The being nodded and stepped forward. This is Prometheus, introduced Jackson, a synthetic intelligence and one of humanity's oldest allies. Prometheus extended a hand, and the chamber's holographic systems activated without any visible interface. The display showed what appeared to be empty space between galaxies. 2,300 years ago, humanity detected an anomaly in the void between the Milky Way and Andromeda galaxies, explained Prometheus, its voice resonating with electronic undertones. Initial scans suggested a rogue planet or stellar remnant. Advanced analysis revealed something else entirely. The display zoomed in, showing a massive structure moving slowly through the void. It resembled a mechanical spider, its central body surrounded by articulated appendages stretching for thousands of kilometers. We classify them as harvesters, continued Prometheus, mechanical entities of unknown origin that travel between galaxies, consuming all available resources before moving on. They appear to be at least partially organic in nature, though their exact composition remains unknown despite centuries of study. The display shifted again, showing historical footage of a similar entity approaching a star system, its enormous limbs extending to engulf an entire planet. This recording comes from the archives of an extinct civilization we discovered in the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy. The harvesters eliminated all advanced life there approximately 50,000 years ago. The council chamber erupted in chaos, representatives shouting questions and demands for verification. The bar raised his hands for silence. If this threat is real, he said when order was restored, why wait until now to warn us? Why not approach the Confederation when it was founded? Ambassador Kawachi answered quietly. Because until recently, the harvesters showed no interest in our galaxy. They remained in the intergalactic void, dormant. 3 decades ago, they began moving toward the Milky Way's outer rim. At their current speed, they will reach the first inhabited systems in approximately 75 years. 75 years? Echoed Murin. That's barely a generation for most species. Which is why we're here now, said Jackson. Humanity has been preparing defenses for millennia, but we can't protect the entire galaxy alone. The Confederation must be ready. The bar studied the human delegates carefully. And what exactly are you proposing? A partnership, replied Kawachi. Humanity will share certain technologies to help strengthen Confederation defenses. In return, we ask for cooperation in establishing a unified response to the harvester threat. Certain technologies, noted the bar. Not all. That would be unwise, said Prometheus. Some human technologies require centuries of careful development to use safely. Others would destabilize your economic and social systems if introduced too quickly. So we remain your juniors, said Murin bitterly. receiving only what you deem as ready for. Admiral Jackson smiled thinly. Counselor, my species was fighting with sharpened sticks when yours was already traveling between stars. Yet somehow we developed technologies you haven't discovered in 15,000 years of civilization. Perhaps there are advantages to our approach that you might consider. Delegate Murin bristled visibly for standing on end. This council will need time to verify your claims, interjected the bard diplomatically, and to discuss the implications of what you've shared. Of course, agreed Kawachi. We anticipated this reaction. To facilitate verification, we've prepared a joint expedition to one of our research outposts monitoring the harvesters. Your scientists can examine our data firsthand. And as a gesture of good faith, added Jackson, we've brought technical specifications for our basic shield technology. It's several generations more advanced than current Confederation designs, but compatible with your existing infrastructure. The bar exchanged glances with his fellow counselors. The council will recess to discuss these matters. Please wait in the diplomatic reception area. As the human delegation withdrew, the chamber erupted in heated debate. Vortak, who had been observing silently from the gallery, approached the bar. High Counselor, a moment of your time. The bar nodded, and they moved to a private alcove. Your assessment, Admiral? Asked the High Counselor. I believe they're telling the truth, said Vortak without hesitation. Or at least a version of it. The technology one observed on their diplomatic station far exceeds our own, and their ships. He shook his head. They manipulate space-time in ways our scientists have only theorized. Yet they hid from us for millennia, mused the bar, watching us stumble through the darkness while they held the light. They claim it was to protect our natural development. And you believe this? Vortak considered carefully. I believe they could have conquered us at any point if that was their intention. Instead, they're offering partnership against a common enemy. Thaber's compound eye studied Vortak's face. You've changed, Admiral. Before this mission, you were among our most aggressive military leaders. I've seen what waits beyond our borders, Counselor. It provides perspective. The High Counselor nodded slowly. The question remains, do we trust them? I don't think we have a choice, replied Vortak. But perhaps that's not the right question. Perhaps we should ask, how do we ensure this partnership benefits the Confederation as much as humanity? The bar clicked his mandibles in approval. Spoken like a true diplomat, Admiral. Perhaps there's a new role for you in our changing galaxy. 6 months later, Vortak stood on the observation deck of the human research vessel Quantum Observer, staring at the monstrosity that hung in the void 5 light-years distant. The harvester was even more terrifying in person than in the recordings, a vast, patient predator drifting inexorably toward the galaxy's edge. Magnificent, isn't it? Asked Prometheus, gliding silently to stand beside him. In its own terrible way. How many are there? Asked Vortak, unable to tear his gaze from the horror beyond the viewports. We've confirmed 17 approaching from different vectors. There may be more our sensors haven't detected. Vortak shuddered. And humanity has been monitoring these things for thousands of years, preparing defenses while we remained ignorant. Not entirely ignorant, corrected Prometheus. Your myths and legends contain references to galaxy devourers and star-eaters. Ancient encounters preserved in cultural memory. Small comfort, murmured Vortak. Perhaps. But consider this. When humanity first discovered the harvesters, we were alone, with no allies, no shared knowledge, no combined strength. The Confederation faces this threat with humanity as a partner, with technology we've spent millennia developing. Yet you still haven't revealed your defensive plans, noted Vortak. Prometheus's mechanical features shifted into what might have been amusement. Some secrets we keep even from our friends, Admiral. But I can tell you this. Humanity did not hide merely to observe. We were building. Building what? A network. A system spanning the galaxy, invisible to conventional sensors. Points of contact on thousands of worlds, including many in Confederation space. Preparations for the day when the harvesters would arrive. Vortak turned to face the synthetic being. Why tell me this now? Because you've been appointed as the Confederation's military liaison to humanity. Because you, more than any other member of your species, understand what we face. And because, when the time comes, you will need to convince the Confederation to trust us completely. And if I can't? Prometheus's glowing eyes dimmed slightly. Then some will survive, and many will perish. The choice belongs to the Confederation, Admiral. Humanity has already made its preparations. We will fight with or without you. Vortak turned back to the viewport, studying the distant harvester. When I was a larving, my clutch teacher told stories of the ancient days when gods walked among the stars. I always thought they were myths. All myths contain seeds of truth, said Prometheus. Humanity is no god, Admiral. We are simply what happens when a species survives long enough to grow into its potential. The Confederation is young, but it has that same potential. If we survive the coming storm. Yes, if. They stood in silence, watching the ancient predator drift through the void. Finally, Vortak spoke again. My people have a saying, the darkest night reveals the brightest stars. Perhaps this threat will unite us as nothing else could. A poetic thought, said Prometheus. Humanity has a similar expression. Necessity is the mother of invention. Crisis breeds innovation and alliance, added Vortak. Indeed. The Confederation and humanity standing together against the dark. It makes for a compelling story, doesn't it? Vortak watched as a small fleet of human vessels emerged from what appeared to be folded space, surrounding the research station in a protective formation. Their sleek, predatory shapes moved with precision that suggested both advanced technology and ancient experience. Yes, he said quietly. A compelling story. The young and the old united at last. As if hearing his words, the human vessels illuminated their external running lights, casting a soft glow that pushed back the infinite darkness. It was a symbolic gesture perhaps, but one that filled Vortak with unexpected hope. The galaxy's oldest power had finally revealed itself.